Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting. It is Monday, December 4th, 2017. We'll start this meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Scott, Drew, Nordstrom, Modrick, Solomon, Lewis, Armstrong, Laurenti, Drury, Roberts. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we'll have our invocation by Father Brian Lane. And prior to the invocation, I'd like to ask everyone to stand and observe a moment of silence for former Representative Craig Thiessen, who passed away recently.
Precious God of all creation, we thank you. We thank you for those who have gone before us, like Craig Thiessen and others who have been servant, who have been civil, who have been caring. We ask for your blessings tonight upon this council, that they will live more in caring than in being served, that they will live more in love than in judgment, that each of us will be able to honor you, Lord, in how we honor each other. We ask in a very simple way that each of us, in the ways that we govern others, know that we are related and know that we are connected. We are your children and your people, and we ask that your blessings remain upon us and guide us in all that we do, in all that we say, and all that we are. Amen.
And now, if you would be so inclined, join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And now on to the adoption of the agenda. This is the time where the council may make modifications to the agenda or adopt it as is. Motion to approve by Solomon, second by Laurenti. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now item number 1, mayor's items. This is a presentation by Mr. Al Scoville regarding the need for mental health treatment facilities. And Mr. Scoville, you have the microphone.
Craig Thiessen and I served on the Boys Club Board of Directors for about 20 years. I knew him well, loved him a lot. I'm going to miss him. He was an excellent legislator. I'm not an expert on mentally ill people, but it seems like I've dealt with them all my life. My first introduction to mentally ill people was in Redfield. A neighbor of ours died. The husband died. He was a janitor at the state capitol. And his mom couldn't take care of him, couldn't handle him. He and I used to play cars in the dirt. And he towed me around the neighborhood in my white wagon. And he's 50 years old. He had no teeth. And his family just pretty much rejected him. And so my mom and dad and I would go up to Redfield and see him at least once a month. Mom would always make fudge for him because he didn't have any teeth. She didn't put nuts in them. On one of these trips, we were told we couldn't see him because he needed to be cleaned up. Well, my mother just pitched a fit. She was pretty proficient at that. She could do a good job at that. And went to the administrator, and we finally got to see him, and down the stairs came Teddy. He had blue and white bib overalls on and an institutional blue shirt, and he'd been beaten to pieces. He had abrasions, contusions. He was really hurt and limping. So that was on a Sunday, and on a Monday, my mom was in Sig Anderson's office. He was governor at the time. That goes a long way back. An investigation was conducted, and the superintendent was fired and some underlings, and that place was cleaned up. We cried all the way from Redfield to Chamberlain because he was hurt so bad. And as we left, he stood with the guard and said, "Margie, Margie, take me home. They hurt me. Margie, take me." Of course, we couldn't take him. But that was when I was about 8 years old. My family always was involved with helping somebody for some reason. And that's how I was raised. Well, right now in this community's experiences and conditions that you have before you, this area is in trouble. One of the reasons it's in trouble is because IHS, Indian Health Service, has let the Indian community down. Our junior senator from South Dakota, Mr. Rounds, somehow got wind of what was happening on the Rosebud Indian Reservation, and the way he described it is the conditions were horrific. And he said he was going to get to the bottom of it. I think Indian Health Service, being a federal agency, owes an obligation to the Indian community. And you know, the American Native segment of our population is very important to us. It really is, and they're not getting a fair shake. Indian Health Service has let us down in Hot Springs. They don't know what the hell they're doing. The VA in Meade County is about $5 million in the hole. I discovered that during the deposition, and everybody was shocked. Susan has needed help for years, and we all know it. Sometimes it takes up to 3 years to get an operation out of Pine Ridge. Something is wrong. Why doesn't the governor pick up the phone and call the Secretary of Indian Health Service and say, "How's it going, Jim? Give me a readout on Rosebud and the other reservations in South Dakota." Sure, it's a federal agency, but our governor's a Republican. The Secretary of Indian Health Service is a Republican. He's got to have a segue into that mess. What's happening on the reservations is unacceptable. Flat, pure, final, unacceptable. This community in this area has suffered 28 suicides so far this year. 28. That's the highest number I can ever recall. 28 souls, so confused, no hope, no light at the end of the tunnel. This is unacceptable. When these kind of people need help, they need it now. They don't have to wait for a bus to leave the courthouse and get shackled on the trip down to Yankton, which is about 350 miles away. Round trip about 700 miles. That keeps loved ones and friends away from the mentally ill. That, to me, is unacceptable. We have 2 buses that leave Rapid City, go down to Yankton, stop in Mitchell first, go down to Yankton, and take mentally ill people to Yankton. And I am told by a good source, which I'm not privileged to advise you of, that they keep mentally ill people down there about 2 weeks and ship them back. And then we're back to square one. This is indicative, folks, of either budgetary problems or an inability to get the right personnel to treat those less fortunate than we are that are mentally ill. This really rankles me. We've lived through this kind of situation for decades. Over coffee cups and meetings of concerned people, we've talked about it for decades. Unfair. Unequal treatment under the law. Shame on them. Now, what will be told when I go to the legislature to see if we can get some kind of a state mental institution out here that can handle our problems is that there's no need. We've got a state mental health institution in Yankton. But let's take a look at the demographics. Where's Redfield that treat the profoundly ill? Redfield, South Dakota. Where's the state penitentiary? Sioux Falls. Where's the women's prison? Here. Look at those demographics. Is that fair? Is that equal treatment? And the first thing they'll say is there's no need. I'll guarantee it. Because I've been through that process. When we finally got a license for an adolescent treatment center here in Rapid City called Wellspring. We started with a $40,000 grant. Now the budget's over $1 million, and we're building a $5 million facility as we speak. We're almost out of the ground on it. We were told by social services that there was no need. So we had to make 6 trips to Pierre to get licensed. Western South Dakota has put up with this broken system for literally decades. And it causes real problems for the city council. You spend a ton of money for people that are less fortunate than we are, that happen to be in a posture where they can't help themselves and they're mentally ill. The city council's budget reflects how much money the city spends, and so does the county. The county's budget. My gosh, Yankton will no longer do evaluations on people who have got to be evaluated to make sure that they're okay to stand trial. They've given that up. No way. They won't do that some more. As I say, this is either budgetary or a lack of personnel to do it, because they've done it for years. Now they're pulling back. And you know, I'm not chewing out Yankton, who I am disgusted with are the governors who give lip service to mentally ill people and nothing changes. Nothing. We're still stuck with all kinds of problems that have all kinds of ramifications. Fiscally, it's a disaster for us. The state has got to do something about this unfair, unacceptable situation. Our demographics will tell quite a story. And we're going to get those. Law enforcement problems. We've got a whale of a sheriff. I don't mean he's big. I mean he's a good sheriff. We've got a good chief of police. You think those guys don't deal with mentally ill people all the time, every day? Now, our regional hospital, I think it was about in February, there's an article in the Journal, which I think the Journal has done a yeoman's job of disclosing many situations that the state should be involved in, but refuses to do so. And even this year, our governor says we have a tight budget. When has it not been tight? The judicial system, oh my, oh my. You can't believe the problems that come before our judges because of mental illness. This problem has really got to be addressed. We're in a good posture right now to do that. The feds don't know what they're going to do, evidently, down in Hot Springs. The Indian Health Service has let us down. Our governors do nothing but give lip service to the mentally ill problem. What are we? Are we chopped liver? Are we second-class citizens? Are our Native American friends who haven't been given a good crack at it, because the Indian Health Service, I think, is inept. And I think Indian Health Service is guilty of malfeasance and misfeasance. I think the legislature has skirted this problem long enough. And it just rankles my feet. Something else too. So, equal service for West River has been denied, has been thrown under the bus, has been ignored, and it is no longer acceptable. This system of ours, quite frankly, is broken. And we have a decision to make. Are we going to be proactive or reactive? We've been reactive for so long that I don't think we know what proactive is. This condition affects you as a city council. It affects the county commission. It affects our judicial system. It affects our law enforcement. It affects all of us, consequently. And our system is absolutely broken. Are we going to stand by and let that happen? I'm tired of it. One could even say I'm angry. But remember, underneath anger is always hurt. Because we haven't been treated equally, fairly, and justly. So I'm going to ask you to pass a resolution to the effect that you have and do indicate support for West River State Mental Hospital. I hope it's a unanimous resolution, because that's what the county commission did. And I got a copy of it today, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful piece of work. We need to do something if we're going to be responsible and accountable to our citizenry, including our Native American friends. My hunch is this will probably take about 3 years. Because the first thing, as I say, they will say, well, you have no need. If we're assigned to the State Affairs Committee to hear this bill, it's the boneyard of dead bills. We all know that, those of us who have been in the legislature. A lot of good bills never see daylight. You know what? They never get out of committee. Well, that's not going to stop me. And I hope it wouldn't stop you. So, here's the way this works. The governor takes a look at the bill and he says, oh my God, we can't afford this. Calls in the majority leader of the House, the majority leader of the Senate, and says, let's put this before the State Affairs Committee. Then what do? We keep on trucking. And I've got to say this, I give Rapid City Journal kudos for their reporting. And that darn little Sam Blackstone, he can be a thorn in your side. And that's what I hope he continues to be. We contact artist leader and show the hypocrisy and the unfairness and unjustifiable treatment that people from our area have received for decades and probably will receive for more decades if you don't take a proactive stance. Dr. Manlove is key. He's probably one of the most renowned psychiatrists in the Midwest. And he's got a repository of wisdom that won't quit. So, it's a long trip, but I ask you, let's put some energy into this. Let's stand up for what's equal treatment. Our job is to put the legislators and the governor, whoever he or she might be, feet to the fire and keep them to the fire. So I ask you to consider it, and to my way of thinking, let's have at it. Let's do it. If it's the right thing to do, let's do it.
Okay, thank you for that. Now we're on to general public comment. This is a time when the members of the public can discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of council members present. We have 2 speaker request forms. First one from Jenny Robertson. And on these public comment, you have 3 minutes, and you can watch these lights up here to see how you're doing.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I want to send my condolences to the family and the city of friends of Craig Teason. I remember him as a child. He would come by our house and he'd always check on us kids in the unit. And he's a very kind man. And I have nothing but good memories of Mr. Teason. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming tonight. This is Jason Loafer's sister, Amber Loafer, and this is Jason Loafer's wife, Gayla Loafer. I'm sorry, Zephyr, and this is Gayla, his wife. We are coming in with 61 petitions tonight from the community. Amber was able to get signatures. 61 signatures from people in our community. Amber was able to get some from some of the businesses on Haynes Avenue at Jimmy John's and also over at the casino. Citizens in the addiction center? In the addiction center, right. Ladies and gentlemen, I gave all of you a letter expressing our concerns, and I'll read it publicly, dated today, December 4th, 2017, to Mr. Mayor Steve Elder and Council. Please review this special request for a very dangerous traffic situation on Haynes Avenue that has caused a very traumatic incident all around for everyone involved. The 20,000 plus vehicles that travel this road are not going to go away, nor is it going to decline. Haynes Avenue has become a very dangerous road. Many ideas have already been presented, and with the city engineer's involvement, a very positive decision can be reached amicably. The consideration requested is an immediate need and a great safety measure for all Rapid City citizens and visitors. Just some of the things that I want to touch on. concerning Haynes Avenue, the Safe to Cross. 20,000 plus cars a day. They're traveling to the city from I-90 to the mall, traveling north and south daily. In 2010 of April, our census was 68,446 folks that live in our city. As of 2016 July, it has grown by 8.2%, 74,048 people. Our city is growing. That main road is a vein through our city that is not going to go away. We have emergency personnel that travel that road, fire trucks, ambulances from adjoining towns, communities that come into Rapid City Regional Hospital, which is growing as well. We're a tourist industry. Our hospitality industry is very large here. And my time is up. Please, folks, we'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have a speaker request form from Julian Navarro.
My name is Julian Navarro. I'm addressing a situation that I was in myself. I'm addressing the homeless situation. I don't believe that alcoholism is the problem. I believe that alcoholism is the end result of options and solutions. And one solution that I have in mind is that I noticed that there's a lot of buildings downtown that are for lease, and that's in the downtown area. And something that I have in mind, I think it's simple, but funding would be very, very something I'm working on. But I would, in Colorado Springs, what they do is they take people and they put them in a facility where they just lay there and sleep. That's all they do. They don't feed them, they don't get no clothes, they don't get no shower. They just get them out the cold. And even if they've been on a no service list, under 32 degrees, they're not allowed to really keep people out on the streets. And I've slept in those conditions, even in the rain, even in Rapid. I don't know where the funding would come, except that I'm looking at these two jobs that I'm willing to provide the funding myself. It'd be nice for donations or city to help out. There's too many people out there that I've heard all the stories. I've been in their position. I've seen what they've been through. I've lived the life that they live. And I can see, you know, myself turning into an alcoholic. If I wanted a place to sleep, I would have to end up in detox. So that means I'm going to have to go get me a little bit of vodka here, and then I would have to make it a continuous process, and then my body would be chemically dependent. So I'm proposing this because there's it snowed yesterday, and I hear about people that almost froze outside. And even though I'm in a little bit somewhat better position, I'm still pursuing the fact that without a vision, people perish. And I thought I was going to die. I am not used to this Arctic type cold. You know, even Colorado is not even as cold as this. It could be 12 degrees with a 25 below wind chill. Like, I've never felt anything like it. What I want to do is make some phone calls to these buildings and see how much they're willing to lease out. A minimum would be a minimum 4 months. And I believe that within the homeless community, these people can govern themselves. You know, it would be a last chance for them to stay out the snow. Hey, you stay out the snow, or you be quiet, or you go over here, or you can go to detox. But a lot of people, we make bad choices. Like, you know, not every choice that I made was made by me. You know, sometimes I gave, like my dad, I give him power over me. You know what, Dad, help me out. And then he goes and messes up for me. And then I lose everything that I was trying to work on. So some of the decisions that I made wasn't even things that I felt that was my fault. But I suffered a lot from other people's decisions and my own consequences. Without vision, the people perish, and this is a vision that I do have. You know, I've been in Texas, they don't get this cold. I've been in Colorado, people make it. But up here, I've never seen these type of conditions. I care about people, and if I have to get the credentials myself to open up my own program, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But that's just something I'm proposing to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Now it takes us on to the non-public hearing items, items 2 through 40, and there are no speaker requests on any of these items. We won't have a public comment period. On to consent items 2 through 31. The council can approve all of these items or select some of them to be removed. Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull item number 30, please.
Okay, Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 27.
Okay, are there any others to be removed from consent? If not, could we have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Approved by Laurenti and a second by Solomon, I think. All in favor of approving the consent items with the exception of 27 and 30, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 27, and that is to approve resolution number 2017-091A, a resolution fixing time and place for the hearing on an assessment roll for cleanup of miscellaneous property. And we'll go to Richard Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I may make a motion to approve.
Okay, second by Becky Drury.
Mayor, if I may just compliment the staff on putting the attachment on there titled Code Enforcement Assessment Roll. I really appreciate that additional information that's starting to show up on these assessments. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 30 is to authorize Mayor and Finance Officer to sign an agreement between the City of Rapid City and the Rapid City Area Schools for the purchase of the school district's ownership interest in the City School Administration Center. We'll go to Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make the motion to approve this and actually include in the motion that the first $1.5 million that must be paid within the first 60 days be paid out of the funding source of the CIP undesignated cash.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to that motion, second by Darrell Drew.
And if I may retain the floor?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I believe there's a lot of support, at least I support this, with the movement of the city taking over this building and then the school district expanding and doing a joint effort with the YMCA. I think the biggest question that's been discussed behind the scenes is the funding sources to come up with this. You know, the $3.5 million hadn't been used to balance the general fund budget for the 2016 year, which was out of the general fund undesignated cash, and another $1.6 million to be used to balance the 2018 budget for next year. We would have readily had this amount of money to make a one-time purchase, which is what that excess money is, because it's not a revenue source. So we're going to have to work really hard to come up with the actual funding source, and it's probably going to have to be divided up into multiple areas, but the Chief Finance Officer has already indicated that there is enough in the undesignated cash for CIP to at least make this one, or make the first payment, which would, I hope, give the schools some comfortability and know that we are serious about going ahead and completing this endeavor. So, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may ask Pauline to clarify our understanding of the CIP coming out first. If you can address that for me, Pauline.
Yeah, let's go to Pauline Sumption, Finance Officer.
I guess, can you clarify your question?
Yeah, the way the motion is right now is that the $1.5 million be paid with coming from CIP to go to the first payment.
That's due within 60 days.
I'm sorry?
It's due within 60 days, the first payment.
That's my question. And the CIP budget looks okay for that?
We do have undesignated cash available in the CIP budget currently.
Thank you. I'm comfortable with this. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for approval on this item. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that takes us through consent. And now, on to non-consent items, 32 through 38. There are no speaker requests. So no public hearing. Start with number 32 under ordinances. Number 32, first reading, ordinance 6204, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by KTM Design Solutions for Storage Place, Inc. for rezoning from no-use district to office commercial district for property generally described as being located southwest of the intersection of Dunsmore Road and Portrush Road. Committee recommendation to approve in conjunction with the plan development designation. Motion by Laurenti, second by Lewis. All in favor of that motion? Oops, Darla Drew.
I have a question for, I believe it would be Dale Tech in this instance, or?
Okay.
Dale, do you know about this situation? I just want, could you give me a little bit of information on plan development designation, what that means? No? Ken? Ken Young, okay.
Yes, plan development is a zoning designation that Rapid City has been using for properties that provide specific challenges within the development area. With this particular property adjoining residential properties in the Red Rock development area, as well as the adjoining storage units that are in the county property, and some other challenges that face that particular area with roadways and such, it was determined that it would be best to have it approved with a PD so that we can take a closer look at specific requirements that we can place upon the development as it comes forward.
Oh, okay, I guess that's enough information. I was kind of worried about the specific requirements part of it, that you were kind of alluding to, but maybe you are not sure what those are at this point?
At this point, we have not yet received a development plan.
Okay.
So we will review that and come up with those specifics when we do.
All right, thank you.
Okay, motion on 32 is for approval. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 33, first reading ordinance 6211, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by KTM Design Solutions for Dean Ham Trust for rezoning from no-use district to low-density residential District 2 for property generally described as being located southeast of the intersection of Murfield Drive and Portrush Road. Committee recommendation is for approval.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Drew, second by Drury. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to community planning and development service items, and how about we go to our Public Works Chair, Darla Drew, for these.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 34, a request by Britton Engineering and Land Surveying, Inc. for Huey Clemens for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots C, D, E, F, G, and H of Clemens Addition, generally described as being located southeast of the intersection of Reservoir Road and Highway 44. Recommendation is to approve with stipulations, and I move to approve.
Second.
Second by Richie Nordstrom. Okay, all in favor of approval of 34, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 35.
Request by Fisk Land Surveying and Consulting Engineers, Inc. for Corey Brown of Redline Automotive, Inc. for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 1A and 1B of Anamosa Crossing subdivision, generally described as being located north of the intersection of Lando Lane and Camden Drive. Recommendation to approve with stipulations. I move to approve.
Second.
Second by Richie Nordstrom. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 36.
A request by KTM Design Solutions, Inc. for Dakota Hills Trailer Sales, LLC, for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 1 through 18 of Bella Vista Estates, generally described as being located at 6061 Covenant Drive. Recommendation is to approve with stipulations. I move to approve.
Second.
Second by Richie Nordstrom. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
A request by 37, a request by Spurlick Consulting, Inc. for Tony Marshall for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 5 through 19 of Brielle subdivision, generally described as being located northeast of the intersection of Fairmont Boulevard and Tower Road. Recommendation is to approve the stipulations. I move to approve.
A motion to approve and a second by Drury. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Now on to Public Works Committee items, item number 38, and we have a motion on item 38 from Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to continue this item to December 18th City Council meeting as per the applicant's request.
Second by Richie Nordstrom. All in favor of postponing to December, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, down to public hearing items 39 through 47. No speaker requests there. Consent public hearing items 39 through 45. Would the council like to approve all of these or remove some? Okay, motion by Solomon to approve all of the consent items and a second by, was it Modrick? All in favor of approving items 39 through 47, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And down to the non-consent public hearing items. Item number 46. There's a correction in this item. Second reading ordinance where it says on the written documentation 6028, it should be 6208. Is that clear enough for the record? Okay, so second reading ordinance number 6208, an ordinance to allow artisan distillers as a conditional use in the Central Business District and the General Commercial District by amending Title 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Motion to approve by Laurenti and a second by Armstrong. We'll go to Darla Drew.
Sorry. I think is it Dale that I would ask questions of on this item, Dale Tech? No, I just keep going to him. Maybe it's the attorney over there, Joel Landine. Could I ask him some questions, Mayor?
Yes, please do.
I know, yeah, okay. So, Joel, with this particular ordinance, we are just establishing a way for these people to do business. It's a state regulation, correct?
Correct. I mean, there's licensing, and this isn't really a licensing issue as far as the alcohol. This is a land use issue for our zoning. So it provides a location within the city where the use would be allowed.
Well, I'm definitely going to support this. I think that these kinds of businesses have kind of stimulated growth in downtown areas. It certainly has been a growth element for the beer and wine industries, and so for artisan distillers to come in, I think this could be a very positive move for our city and a new business model for us to look at. So I'm going to vote yes. Thank you.
Okay, motion on the floor is for approval of item 46. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 47. Approve resolution number 2017-099, a resolution to create Promise Road Tax Increment District, and resolution 2017-100, a resolution to approve project plan for property generally described as being located northwest of the intersection of Catron Boulevard and Mount Rushmore Road. We'll go to Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I just need a couple of clarifications before I really approve this. So, Mr. Shafi, if you would. Thank you. Couple of questions for you is, my main concern is what happens if one of those other TIFs decide to go south? If meaning that if they don't hold up their end of the conditions that are put forward in this TIF, what does that do to this current TIF?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Hani Shafi with Dream and Design. We're representing the client or the owner. We're part of the ownership. If this TIF, is to build Promise Road, if TIF 70, for example, does not, build anything, which, TIF 70 has 2 building permits currently under review, and just with those 2 building permits and what is happening with the Power and Light building and what is happening at Buffalo Crossing, TIF 70 will pay off by the year 2022 or the year 2023. This TIF will be paying off 5 years after that, which is still before the 20 years would expire. So this TIF will be very safe. And the risk also on this TIF will be at no risk to the taxpayers. It will be the risk of the property owners who are creating this TIF or who are requesting this TIF.
So if, just to clarify, make sure I'm totally understanding this, is if that TIF 70 doesn't comply with or go through with what they're saying they will try to do, and or even not do it at all, you're still very okay with what's this being going forward?
Yes, sir.
And then the other concern that I have, well, it's not even really a concern, but the other issue, it has to do with Promise Road being developed. I'd like to see that Promise Road go through. I want to see that happening because putting that risk on the developer makes it more comfortable for me, because I know within the CIP we can't do that. And so I'm very excited about that part of it, but if you want to enhance that or elaborate on this issue, I would appreciate any comments.
We currently on the east side of Promise or the future Promise Road are currently 3 lots that are currently platted and have access from the service road. But, you know, working with the DOT and city staff, you know, there are several concerns as far as public safety and public, protection for the future as the community grows. Without Promise Road, there will be a lot of safety concerns, and it'll create a dangerous situation. So city staff requested that Promise Road be considered, and we explored different funding sources with the city and the state. And to build Promise Road, the TIF was the only viable option at this stage, and therefore we applied for the TIF to make it happen, and we are going to upfront the cost for it. Having safer transportation in that area would allow us to develop the subdivision in a safe manner, even though we could develop it with other options, but they are not going to protect the taxpayers and protect their safety.
Mr. Shafi, thank you very much for that. And then the other component for me is that this all ties in with that Highway 16 intersection because of the future road improvements that the DOT is proposing for that area. So I would really want to see this go forward because they tie together and it does make sense. And if one doesn't come through, especially, I'm going back to TIF 70, if it doesn't follow through and this doesn't follow through, we're going to be in a very dangerous situation with Highway 16 intersection. So those are my concerns.
We hope to, this TIF, we are going to take the risk on it, and we're willing to do so because we want to move our project in such a way where it is really going to be safe to the traveling public and serve the future needs of the community. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Mr. Sheffield. It definitely does. Thank you.
Lisa Modrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-009, a resolution to create the Promise Road Tax Increment District, and the resolution 2017-100, resolution to approve project plan and property generally described as being located northwest of intersection of Catherine Boulevard and Mount Rushmore Road.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second by Darla Drew. Now Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of the issue at hand here is the need for Promise Road, so I'm not sure whether to direct this question to Dale Tech or Ken Young, but can you talk a little bit about, from what Hani Shafi has shared with us, he can do this project without Promise Road, but if we want Promise Road in, it will need to be through a TIF. And so I guess I would like to hear from our staff about that need and what it would do in terms of, especially in terms of public safety, economic development, those sorts of items.
Yes, excellent question. The intersection of Highway 16 and Catron Boulevard is under state control. It's a gateway to our community. It's a highly used intersection. Certainly have accident issues there. The state is in the process of coming up with a redesign of the intersection to provide not only capacity and safe turning movements for today, but well into the future. As part of that redo of that intersection, there's going to be impacts to adjoining properties. The DOT's been working with the adjacent property owners to acquire right-of-way and control of access to keep that intersection functioning properly. The existing service road that exists in the northwest quadrant of that on this property are problematic for a future interchange. So it makes sense to eliminate that service road and to extend Promise Road to provide the connection through that area.
If for some reason we didn't do this and the state is still going to look at that intersection of Highway 16 and Catron Boulevard, would it then be on the city to do something in terms of redirecting any new roads, such as redevelopment of Promise Road if it wasn't developed in the first place, or something along those lines?
There are options for that. Service Road, Mr. Shaffey, I think, has a design that he looked at. If Promise Road didn't go through, it is less than optimum. It takes care of the issue on the Catron leg of the intersection, but it still utilizes the service road along the Highway 16 portion, which the DOT is trying to get away from. So it is a less than optimum solution to be able to do something there.
Okay. And Patsy, could I ask you a question real quick? And how much time I have left? But one of the big things we always have to ask ourselves when we're doing a TIF is to do the but-for test. Would this happen but for this TIF? So that's one of the big filters that we have to use. Can you talk a little bit about your assessment of that?
I think, as Dale mentioned, without the TIF, our developer will move forward with the existing master plan using the service road, and that is a safety concern for the staff.
Okay. All right. I yield for now. Thank you.
Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. So can anyone say blighted? I don't see that corner being blighted at all. So Patsy, can you help us out? And if it's not a blighted area, what is the qualification for this TIF to go through?
There are two portions to that blighted statute, state statute. It's 11-9-8. And it's either 25% of the entire district is blighted, or 50% of that property within the district will create economic development. It's not the blight language in this particular section that we're looking at. It's the economic development that's going to be created not only just for Rapid City, but for the state as a whole.
So 50% of this TIF area is supposed to have an economic boon?
Correct.
So, and maybe Mr. Shaffey can answer this. What are the businesses that are going to go in here that are going to incorporate this 50% economic boom for Rapid City and, as Patsy said, the state of South Dakota?
There would be some hospitality component of this within this district, which will create facilities that will be utilized by the near 1,200 employees that are currently moving into that intersection. Those people want to eat, they want to have board meetings, and they need hotels, they need restaurants. Locating such facilities right at that intersection will minimize the impact on those folks from traveling into other areas of the community and taxing our transportation infrastructure. That's number one. Number two, there is about roughly 50 to little more than $50 million professional offices that will provide services that currently are lacking within our community, and that will employ nearly 250 to 300 people. That will be at jobs of nearly average of $55,000 to $75,000 a year, which will capture some of the leakage within that type of professional business that currently leaves our community and leaves our state.
So, and are all of these businesses going in on this piece of property going to be paying property taxes?
Yes, ma'am.
Because then the Buffalo Crossing one, that's what we were told to start with, and it turned out that they weren't all paying property taxes, so.
And that's why we bought this property to make up for the loss in revenue on that one. Otherwise, this property may not be developed to create those taxes that will make up for that one.
But you bought this property, and now we're doing another TIF that's an overlay on top of an existing TIF that first has to pay out, and that original TIF has been having trouble even putting out or completing building applications. And I know that's not you, that's the underlying TIF, and so...
And to answer your question, we did not intend for that not to be a tax-paying entity, but unfortunately, I'm glad it is going there, regardless if it paid taxes or not. We are the ones at risk if it did not pay taxes. It's not the taxpayers or anybody else. If it did not pay, we will have to fork up the money. Our names are on the loans, so it's not really, we did that as a needed service within the community to expand our medical services, and I'm glad it is going. It's more jobs, it's more services to the community. The real estate taxes portion of it is very, very small component. That facility is about $50 million to $55 million is what the Rapid City Regional Health Hospital is building there. They're going to have about 200 employees at a payroll of approximately $10 million a year, and just the sales tax on the material that they are buying to build that facility, just the sales tax component, regardless if it is gravel from the Liens or steel from Dakota Steel or anywhere else, it's 2% of $25 million, which is approximately $500,000 just in sales tax, just on that material. So I hope that helps, so.
Thank you. Mayor, may I ask the city attorney a question, please?
Yes.
Thank you. I noticed there's no clocks tonight, so I feel like I can keep going.
Almost out of time, but go ahead.
If you wouldn't mind answering, is there any legality that prevents the city from filing their own TIF to put in roads that are in these economic boon areas?
No, the city has funded TIFs or created TIFs to fund city infrastructure and to repay. But part of the problem is when you're dealing with a project like this, it's really timing, because once the district is created, that's what freezes the development. So it's easier for the TIF to be created at the front end. So again, you could come back and create a TIF district in the future to fund the road, but if all the greatest increase in the property tax, the greatest increment is going to be from when it goes from undeveloped land to developed land, and if you don't capture that, the TIF probably isn't going to pay out. I mean, if you're just going on the standard property tax increases from year to year, unless you had a really huge area by which you were collecting taxes, but then of course that's increase in tax base that from other areas that you're not collecting or isn't going to your general fund. So it can be done, but again, the important thing is creating it timing wise so that you capture the increment.
Thank you. Well, I do know that Alderman Estes, former council president, had brought this up 2 years ago, that the city should have actually applied for their own TIF and probably could have been able to take care of a couple issues, including the one that I hear in Ward 3 of that whole Sheridan Lake Road thing or anything else. So I would recommend that the city staff actually take a look at this and the development of the area. I mean, with all the building permits coming through City Hall and with the talk of the development areas, I don't know why we wouldn't take it upon ourselves to do some of these TIFs if we're going to try to get city improvements. I do appreciate, Mr. Shaffey, all that you've done for our city. I've told you that public or privately. I'll tell you publicly, I do appreciate it, but I still feel, and obviously I know this TIF topic is still being discussed at the state level too, that there is like this loosely formed thing here, and I think it needs to be corralled. I know that you're coming back and asking for a tip at this one, and I recognize city staff wants this road to go in. But geez, when are we going to have 5 TIFs over the same piece of land building up and waiting for everything to get paid off? To me, it just gets to seem a little silly that we just keep piling on this mega TIF and have this tax rate be extended out 20 years when supposedly a lot of these things can be paid in 5 to 7 years. But let's just keep tacking it on and not pay out taxes and get it back on the tax roll. So thank you. I'll be voting no.
Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to ask anyone any questions this time, so I think we'll be okay. I just want to say that for our council, there are not ways that we create jobs, but, you know, we can clear the path for economic development. It's what a lot of us run on and what a lot of us hope for. There's only a few people that actually do this in our city, and I, too, am really grateful for the development that goes on here and the developers that put themselves out there to go ahead and improve our tax our tax rolls and our the things that are going on that are getting paid for in Rapid City. I'm sorry, I got distracted. But I just wanted to thank Hani Shafi for the work he's done here. And I'm going to vote for this because I just think that economic development is one of the pillars of our community and what we do for the council.
Okay, the motion on the floor is for approval. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion passes with 2 noes, Laurenti and Scott. On to item 48, the bill list. We'll go to Pauline Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no additions to the bill list, so the total is that which is attached at $8,358,656.74.
Motion to approve by Laurenti. Second by Drury. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn by Laurenti, second by Solomon. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned.